I had the most unbelievable string of bad luck and totally had to record it because the way this game ends is, it's just hilarious actually. So anyway, I lost a dice roll and my stuff is on the top. We're having that replay glitch again. Let's see if we can get this going. Okay, so here's the hand that I was presented with. I'm playing the 5-color Sliver Queen deck that Brian has recently put games up for and that I've been playing with him, collaborating with him on. So anyway, my opponent's playing Rada, Heir to Keld, and I'm playing Sliver Queen. So this hand maybe was a keeper. I mean, any creature, any blue mana makes this hand amazing. But I decided I didn't want a maybe hand. I wanted to go for like a definitely playable hand. This is certainly not that. So I mulligan and mulligan again. Here's a perfectly playable hand. It's got mana. It's got something to do with the mana in the form of Dynamo and any business spells, and we're off to the races, right? So I keep this hand. Also, although you probably don't see it unless you've been watching some of other games, this hand has a creature in it. So my opponent just does his little, gets his little dork out there. Rada. So there's my sneaky creature. And a strip mine, which is great since he went and fetched a mountain. I really don't want him lightning bolting the arbor, but since Rada is going to give him 2 red anyway, if he's got a bolt, I'm sure arbor's dead. It was risky, but since I had the Mox Diamond, I figured, you know, whatever. Anyway, this deck needs to have creatures in play. It is a creature deck, so I typically will go get Arbor and take that risk in the majority of situations. The funny thing is, if you watch the end of this game, that 1 point of damage actually works out perfectly for me. The Arbor damage here. And of course he gets its Soul Ring, but he's still stuck on red other than during his combat step. Now, if you've been paying attention to what I've drawn, I've mulliganed into 5 mana, and my top decks have been land, Mox, Diamond in no particular order. So look at my mana, and mana. That's my entire draw so far. And there's my opponent with his red. And Jedit Ojanin of Afrava. Forest Walk, that's kind of bad. And it makes 2/2 Forest Walkers. That's really bad. Definitely problematic. I need a Quirion Ranger in order to pick up my forests so that if I ever want to block. So I thought, you know, even though I just now top decked, of course, another land, I thought, hey, I've got Queen, I've got a ton of mana. That's all I've got. I'd be okay, but with this Forest Walker who produces more Forest Walkers, I realized I was on a potential clock. As it turns out, now he draws the Temple and makes no play. So I thought, wow, is he going to actually double block here? And for the first time this game, it's turn 6, I drew a non-mana source, Glen Elendra. So if he has a trick, this works out nicely. I can play it preemptively and find out. Doesn't look like I'm running Queen into anything, so I just go for it. I will happily trade my commander for his Jedit, and then replay my commander, allowing him to replay his. But he eats the damage, so I don't understand what his thought process was on this. If you're not going to attack, if you're not going to block, you need to attack, right? And vice versa. Anyway, I don't know if he was scared of Condemn or what. So if you look at this game, I've drawn 1 spell, and my opponent is about to... What is this? Every time a creature comes into play under his control, he can make it fight another creature. That's kind of insane. So now Glen Elendra's dead, since she can't counter creatures. And although she persists, she doesn't persist in the face of a Cat Warrior. So he takes down Glen, so I have no defenses at all. End step. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to avoid fetching another green source. If I do find a Quirion Dryad, I really want to pick up the Tropical Island. So along those lines, the plan here is to kill Dryad Arbor as soon as possible, so that I'm set up for the scenario in which I'm able to suddenly block. But I didn't top deck Acquiring Dryad. I top decked a land. How excellent! So I just send in the team, hoping he'll kill the Arbor. Hoping, actually, he'll Grawl Beast and Cat Warrior and exchange them both from my Sliver Queen. But he just chumps and then kills the Arbor. So that was a good outcome there. And for some reason he lets Slivers 3, doesn't block with Rata. So again, another free point of damage that may or may not matter this game. See, it's Encroaching Waste. It's like a Dust Bowl you can only use once that costs extra mana. That's pretty doggone terrible. I think while Wizards is right to be careful with these types of effects, this is way too careful. They can't seem to find... They need land to deal with non-basics, but it has to be land. But they can't seem to find one that is, you know, somewhere between, you know, a Dust Bowl and an Encroaching Waste or whatever. I thought the Tectonic Edges were reasonable, but I guess they don't agree. Tectonic Edges' problem, of course, is that if the opponent doesn't have enough lands in play, you sit there and stare at the land that's killing you and you can't do anything about it. So look at this. World Spine Worm? Really? A 15/15 trample, which also makes 3 5/5s when it dies? What am I facing? Like, what am I playing against? But hey, he gets to do 15 damage to my commander. So in response, of course, I'm going to make tokens. If only I had more land. And for anyone interested, this is the current deck list here. You can take a look. It's a little bit of a mess this way. I will bring it up after the game as well. But the deck's gotten much more finely tuned. We've gotten it down to the point where you can draw nothing but land in a game. We're very proud of that feature. No, I've gotten it down to the point where the mana flow is nicer, and usually your early game is a lot, like, you're smoother to deploy. Cut some of the clunkier cards. Anyway, Queen is exiled with a counter on it, and here comes the beats from him. Can't block Jet it. Have a free token and kill another Sliver. And of course I got a chump, so we'll kill another Sliver, and I eat 5. So this doesn't look too good, you could say. But look, I top decked a spell. Not just a Glenny Lendra dead on my opponent's turn spell, but a real meaningful card, Tezzeret. Tezzeret, simply the best, probably the best Planeswalker in the format, in any deck where it's appropriate. And since artifacts should be in your deck, that's ought to be any deck. Anyway, another peek at the deck. So I go get Hollowed Fountain. I don't pay life for it. I'm trying to avoid getting Forest, as I said, in case I have the opportunity to pick up that Tropical. Or at this point I would even Wasteland it, since I can play Queen off of the Mox. So anyway, I search for... Should it be... What should it be? What should it be? What do you think? Winter Orb? Heck no. I need to stop my face from getting smashed in, so I go and get Vedalken Shackles, which is not going to take a 15/15 trample. But it will stop a 5/5 Forest Walker, thankfully. So one problem is solved, and I don't have to worry about picking up my Forest. Or at least one problem is solved until his next 9-drop, or, you know, he hardcasts Terastodon, wipes my board, or, well, let's see what he does. Ingot, that doesn't do anything. Boundless Realms. Because what this ridiculous deck of Fat Parade needs is more mana. Anyway, so he enters his attack step and I go for Jet it. Now, if you'd been paying attention, See, I could have taken the Grawl here, because I have exactly, what, 6 islands? So he could have, instead of doing all the stuff he just did, he could have, I definitely agree with this to thin his deck, but I don't know about the ingot. He could have encroaching wasted one of my lands. I would have still taken Jedit here, but then I wouldn't have the option to take the Grawl, and restricting options is good, but we're obviously not playing with top-tier Magic player here. So he goes in for my life total instead of killing Tezzeret. I guess when you're attacking for 15 and you can kill him in 2 swings, that's what you do. But it's actually going to only be 10 damage and I get a creature out of it. I guess attacks or blocks. That's really good, isn't it? It's really good if you have 6 mana anyway. And 3 of it's green. I've seen worse creatures. Anyway, look at my top card. I mean, I don't always draw spells, but when I do, they're planeswalkers apparently. Grawl comes to the team. And Tezzeret time walks my opponent. And all of a sudden, or Jace does. And not only that, but because Tezzeret lives, I've got enough mana to do this. Chomp on your Forest Walker. Now my Planeswalkers are not destined for defeat here. And look at that. 2 Planeswalkers. Tezzeret and Jace. Wiped out 5/5, a couple of tokens, a 15/15 trampler, and a 6/6. All wiped out by a Tezzeret and a Jace. And hey, time to smash some face, huh? My wife's over here cracking up. I love it. Alright, so the opponent, of course, excuse me, plays Lurking Predators. So now if I cast a spell, he can potentially put a fat sack into play. So I'll just try to avoid casting spells. How about that? And I don't know, he gets down with his Dragon Broodmother. I guess he decides he doesn't want to play a 15/15 and then just watch it get bounced again. And so he kills a land. Might have thought that he would get his Grawl back, but Shackles, of course, doesn't suffer from that limitation. And he gets a dragon to devour, or yeah, dragon with Devour too. If I were him, I probably would have just eaten the commander, and then you can always just replay it later. Anyway, he doesn't. So, can I win this turn? That's the question. So, let's see what happens. Well, I don't want to cast any spells, thanks to his anti-spell tech Lurking Predators. So, let's make some slivers. And fight, and fight, and fight, and fight that dragon until it's dead. And then... clink! How about I've had enough of your junk? Oh, and bounce your guy. Oh, and... take 20. Exactly 20. Doesn't even get an untapped step. So, funny thing is, this game wasn't close at all at the end there, but if it had been a close game, it just demonstrates how important one life actually can be. That one block he didn't block, or that one swing that I took initially with the Dryad Arbor, took him to exactly 20 and basically bought me a whole turn. Anyway, his deck was trash, but it almost beat me. It almost beat the all-land draw. And I thought it was a lot of fun and you'd enjoy it. So here's another look at the deck sorted. This is much closer to more than likely what the final build is going to look like. This has been working extremely well. I really would like to get another... I'd like to get Lantern in play, Chromatic Lantern, into the deck rather. Don't see a way to do it. So if anyone watching can think of a suggestion, I would appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time, hopefully with spells.